Hi, I'm Aaliyah Locke.
And I'm Brenita Softly.
And we're both rising second-year law students at the University of Alabama School of Law.
And we're also the host of Welcome to My America.
The purpose of this platform and this discussion is to amplify the Black voice. Too often, our voices are overshadowed on digital mediums, whether it's a tweet, an Instagram post, or a status on Facebook. People will find a way to disconnect. We want to be able to share these stories and people see the person telling their story. It's easier to empathize. It's morbid to say that we have to humanize the Black humans, but unfortunately, that's the way our society has been and still is to this day.
So lately, there's been a lot of turmoil with people not listening to each other and not understanding each other. So we just want to use our platforms to create a sense of understanding, to amplify the voices of the Black community. So without further ado, we hope that you watch the video and we hope that you enjoy. And we also ask that you listen rather than respond. Thank you.
My name's Cedric. I'm currently a pharmacy student at Auburn University. I'm originally from Pensacola, Florida. I'm 26. Yeah, that's pretty much me.
I'll go next. Hi, everyone. I'm Jalen Johnson, a native of Selma, Alabama. I'm a recent graduate of the University of Alabama, and I'll be starting law school in fall at Cumberland School of Law, and I'm 20 years old.
I'm Travis Kellum. I live in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I'm from Peoria, Illinois, originally. Aaliyah's cousin, and I went to Howard University, graduated in 2015 with a degree in mechanical engineering.
Yes, that leaves me. I'm Dakota. I'm 27. I'm from Indianapolis, and I'm in law school at Alabama.
Okay, thank y'all. So you want to go? Now you can start.
Yes. Okay, so back to what I was saying earlier. Our first question is, when was the first time you realized that your skin color made you different? It's just for whoever wants to answer it first, because you all are going to have to answer it.
I guess I'll go first. My skin color made me notice that I was different when I was young, growing up playing baseball. I played recreational baseball with my father, and so I noticed that all of my teammates looked just like me. And I noticed that some of the players that we played against were like all white teams. And, as a child, I really didn't understand. I just knew that, we were two different races, we were two different colors, but I did not understand like what was going on at the time. And so I thought it was normal. And then as I got older in my school system, it was reiterated that, because all the school systems I went to were 99.9% African Americans. Like everybody in my school was Black. The other 1% was of another ethnicity or race. And so all the whites, they went to another different school system, which had far better opportunities than I did. And so I noticed that as well in school. And so it was also reiterated in my neighborhood. In my neighborhood, it was same as the school system. It was 99.9% African-American neighborhood. And the whites also had a different neighborhood. And so in Selma, it's kind of like segregated in a way. And it's still kind of like that, but it's kind of progressed over the years because we have now more Black people moving in the white neighborhood. But that's when I first noticed that my skin color made me different. And I noticed that it was different opportunities for us growing up.
I'll go next, I guess. So for me, it was probably my ninth grade year. I grew up with a single mom. So when I was going into high school, I don't know if y'all ever heard of it. So, by kids getting recruited to go play at different schools and stuff like that. So I realized my skin color was different because I was getting more benefits, I guess, of being a poor Black kid coming from a single household. And I thought it was a normal thing because it's like, oh, I'm good at basketball. So, I was thinking everybody get treated like this. But then the school I went to, it was predominantly white. And I noticed like all their moms and dads were driving Benzes. And I went to their house for like pool parties and stuff. And they stayed in like really nice houses and neighborhoods. And I kind of realized like, oh, okay, like we need a leg up because, we don't stay in the same neighborhood. We're not as fortunate as them. And we pretty much just getting a boost. And the only reason I was even getting the opportunity was because I was good at basketball. So that was kind of when I kind of realized, like, dang, like, we're pretty poor. So, yeah.
I can go next. I would say when I first noticed people treated me differently because of my skin color, 5th grade. So growing up all through life, pretty much, I went to predominantly black, like primary school, primary school. Then when I got to middle school, 5th grade, it was like an all white school. It was like a gifted school. So there were like 60 kids in each grade, all white. And just everything is different. So like the way the students treat you, the way the teachers treat you, just even like to the projects. So like we had this one project where you had to kind of make a coat of arms for like your family and then trace your family history back. But of course I couldn't do that because we were stolen. So that's another like eye opener. And like my brother before this said, when you go to like their houses and stuff, it's so much bigger. But like you really don't know how much you didn't have because all your friends are in the same situation as you. So that's what I would say when I noticed it.
For me, I don't know. I guess I kind of struggled with this question. I guess growing up, right? So I grew up in the suburbs of Indianapolis, and it's, you know, predominantly white, and I'm biracial. So I don't know at what point I really realized that, like, you know, that my skin made me different. I think it was something that my mother, who's black, was hyper aware of, and like she made me aware of it. I don't think it really got to a point where I realized that my skin color made a difference until I came here for college. And long story short, I was like kicked out of a fraternity rush party. And like, you know, I guess growing up, you know, it wasn't, I mean, there was times when it was, you know, like there's kind of like racial jokes and stuff like that, but I never really felt like any kind of like overt discrimination based on my skin color until college. And I was like, oh damn, like this stuff does matter outside of like the bubble that I'm from. But growing up, I mean, I could recognize that I was different in both like white environments and black environments, because, you know, like I stand out from both. And but it wasn't ever something that really like weighed on me. It was that my mother would, you know, point something out to me. Or like, for example, growing up, you know, like if other kids got picked for something and I didn't, and like my mother thought I was qualified, you know, she would say, oh, like she would, you know, make it a race issue. And, you know, whether or not she was right, I mean, who knows? But it's just, it wasn't ever something that really crossed my mind, because I don't think I ever experienced anything that was like, you know, so overt. Maybe like under the surface, and I was just too young to notice it, is likely how that went. And that's why my mother was, you know, hyper aware of it, to see those things going on. But it probably took me a while for it, you know, to notice it for myself.
Okay. So like to kind of piggyback off of what a lot of y'all said is that, you know, with the exception of Dakota, y'all were quite young when realizing that, you know, just by being black, something that you couldn't prevent yourself whenever you were born, either excluded you from certain groups or opportunities or things of that nature. So to kind of segue into something else, how do you feel with being a black male in America? How has that benefited you? Maybe like in terms of like affirmative action, or how has it kept you away from certain things like Dakota said that you knew that you were qualified for, but for being black, you weren't selected or looked over?
I would say for me, I guess I use like applying to pharmacy school. I feel like I should have been in pharmacy school like almost like 2 years ago, but it was a fear of like, dang, like, because I know in the healthcare field, a lot of blacks don't get selected, and there's very few of us. And that kind of deterred me from like applying, because I feel like, dang, I'm not like smart enough. They don't really accept us. And it doesn't help that I went to University of Alabama at Birmingham, where they really don't accept a lot of black people. And the same thing I was scared of, but then happen now because in my class, it's only 2 black males, me and this other guy. And so it's like, dang, man, like out of 130 people, it's only 2 of us. And I'm like, okay, I said, I guess that's just the norm. So I guess for me, it was kind of like a mindset thing. It's like, I do get scared. I do get nervous, but I guess now I just try to look past that, even though it's in my face. So I try my best to be mentally tough when it comes to things like that. So, yeah.
Anybody else wants to, yeah, I don't want it to be awkward, but if anybody else wanted to jump in and just, I should have said this at the beginning, but just as far as like as transparent as y'all are being, just be as transparent as you're comfortable with. I know some stories are easier to recount than others are. So we never want to put you in a position to where you're telling something and it brings you back to a place mentally you'd rather not go to. Cause like, I get that.
Yeah,
I get that. So if anybody else wanted to add in on that, go ahead and feel free to do so.
Yeah, I guess I will. Honestly, I forget what the exact question was, but I guess to Cedric, when you had mentioned, that there's only 2 of you. I mean, I had just a few days ago written a letter in response to something the dean of our law school said, pointing out that in our graduating class of 135, there's only like 4 of us. And it's just, like to try and point out the need, to emphasize recruiting more, Black and other minority applicants. So like when you said that, it's like, damn, like, similar numbers, like I know that feeling. And it's just, I think kind of like what can be hard about it is just like you look around the room and like you're just looking for like people that you might relate to, or like I get like, I don't like being, the sole voice in the room when an issue comes up and then you realize, damn, I'm like the only Black male in this room. And then I get afraid, like if I say something, people are going to think, all right, well, that's what, they construe that for all Black males. And it's just, like I've had moments where I've been that representative and not realized it, and things that I've said have been construed the wrong way. And it's like, you have to learn from that. And like, you have to be hyper aware of those sorts of things. And it's just, I don't think people like ever think about what that burden, can be like sometimes. Honestly, Aaliyah, I forget what the question that you would originally posed was.
I would say so too to that. Because like for me, my mindset is, I know when you're in settings like that, they expect you to represent the entire Black race. So if anything happens, it's like, oh, how do you feel? I can't speak for all 50 million of us, and it's just like I was talking to Bree earlier, and I said in our group, I had to make a separate group me because there's only 10 total Black people in the class, 2 males, 8 females. So it's like I had to make a separate group because we felt like we was getting discriminated against, and we ain't even formally met each other yet. So it's like, golly, y'all, like we can't even ask y'all questions. We can't do nothing yet. So it's like I made a separate group me, and I said, okay, somebody had to do it. They not helping us out, so we can't let each other fall behind. So it's like when you in settings like that, I guess it's about being mentally tough. But then, like you said, it's like, how do I even go about this? Like when we in person, how do I even act around y'all? Like how do I even respond to the questions y'all going to ask? Because the questions are going to come. Oh, Cedric, how do you feel about Black Lives Matter? How do you feel about this? What do you think the Black race feel about that? Because they are insensitive like that because they talk like that in a group meeting. So my question, I don't know. Like I can't speak for all of us. So that's my piece on it.
Yeah, and I like what you said about developing that mental toughness. I would say that's probably the biggest. Aaliyah, you mentioned like pros and cons of being like Black, and yeah, there's like affirmative action, but I would say it's probably a lot more cons than there are pros. But out of those cons, you kind of find some pros, such as like being more mentally tough than our counterparts. So like going to Howard, like a Black school, we didn't have like all the resources like say like Georgetown or GW down the street had. For obvious reasons, but that kind of develops. So when you're doing your research and stuff like that, doing your senior projects, your capstones, you have to work with what you have. So that kind of builds that mental toughness and that grit that you can take and apply anywhere. So I would say transforming those cons to positives has been crucial for me as a Black man.
I know that question had kind of like came up in my mind like the other night. I was just thinking, I was wondering, like when I have opportunities presented to me or granted to me, I wonder, are they given to me because I'm just a black man, or are they do they actually value who I am as a black man? That's something that I had to question myself. Is it just because of affirmative action, or do they value who I actually am as a person? And one thing, like you all mentioned, the mental toughness. I know at the University of Alabama, I've been in big classrooms of 200 plus, and it's only about 5 of us in the classrooms. And I know, like, I was talking to one of my mentors a long time ago, and I was just like, sometimes that can kind of be, that can kind of like, that can kind of have you feeling intimidated in a way, because you're only you outnumbered by other races. And so I just know for myself that my mentor told me, she said just know that they're no smarter than you are. You're just as smart as they are, so you go in there and you work just as hard as they do. And even though they may work hard, because you're not going to be able to get as much as they do just because you work just as equal as them. You have to go even further and beyond. You have to work harder than they do. So that's something that my mentor told me, and that's just something that I develop as a person. And so when I apply to different places, I always try to make sure that they actually value who I am as a person instead of just as a number, so they can make their statistics look better.
I like that. That was yeah.
Yeah. Aside from like the mental toughness that you all have been talking about, how do you make yourselves feel comfortable in these white spaces? Because a lot of, from what I've been hearing from you guys, is like you feel kind of like an imposter syndrome, like you don't belong. So how do you make yourself feel like you belong, aside from the mental toughness that you've already said?
For me, it's kind of weird. Like I take like an alpha type position, so I'm gonna go in there. I'm gonna assert myself. I'm just gonna be like, all right, because my mindset is you already uncomfortable with me being here anyway. So if anything, let me just make myself a leader. To where you respect me. It's like I'm going to command your respect. I'm going to get your respect, because I kind of feel like when you're in spaces like that where it's not a lot of black people, they're not really respecting you anyway. I feel like the mindset is, man, you just lucky to be here, or sympathy, like just be happy you here. And it's like, nah, I deserve to be here. And it's for me, I take it as a competitive approach. And I feel like I have to be that way, because if I'm not that way, you're not going to respect me. So that's just kind of how I take it. Not being like rude to them, but I'm just letting you know, like, hey, I'm the real deal.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think it also goes back to mental toughness. So like when I was like in middle school, I used to struggle with that. But as I got older and got more comfortable, I started to realize like I do belong here. Like I'm not trying to be an imposter or blend in or anything. Like I'm me, I belong here. And you got to start developing that confidence. Like I'm the best in the room, like regardless, white, black, purple, green, orange, whatever. So I'm going to just come here and show out. No matter if it's all white people, all black people, whatever. So.
Yeah, for me, I just, what I do is just go in the room and just be myself. Like I just try not to act as if I'm something else or try to be as something else. I just go in being myself. And like, I remember one time my freshman year, I was in the classroom, the teacher was asking questions, and like, I knew the answer, but like, I was just kind of intimidated to answer, because I was like, if I answered it wrong, they may think that I'm dumb. They may say, oh, look at him, he's dumb. Cause they already label us as dumb anyway, cause we're black. But I was just like, if I answer it wrong, they're kind of going to give them a reason to say that I'm dumb. So I was kind of afraid to answer the question. But then I said to myself, I said, Jalen, you're smart, man. You know what you're talking about. So I just went on, answered the question, got it right. And every time the teacher asked a question, nobody would answer. And so I went every time every time she asked a question, I would answer. And so I just always asserted myself and always just kind of like just made it seem as if I knew what I was talking about. And so that way they'll know that, all right, he know what he's talking about. He's actually smart. Okay, he actually earned to be here. He's just not a number in the class. He's just not a statistic to make the numbers look good. He's a person who actually worked hard and deserves to be here. So that's what I try to do. Just be myself at all costs. That's all I do.
I guess I've got some similarities and some differences to what you guys have said. I think similarly, like inevitably, I know I'm going to stand out in some way. So I think, like, to what you guys have said, like, I'm going to try and stand out for the right reasons, not for the wrong reasons or for other reasons that, people may think, or like different stereotypes they might have. So, in academic settings, that presents itself in different ways and stuff. But I guess, like, so I had a basketball coach. One of his mantras was, get comfortable being uncomfortable. And even though that was an athletic thing, I think it's just throughout my life, like, I've always still, like, whether it's a white space or a black space, like, I stand out in some way, and it's just like, that's naturally uncomfortable. And I've just gotten used to that. Like, I just kind of expect that at this point. So in a weird way, like, I've just gotten used to that, to the point where it's like, it's not uncomfortable anymore. Like, I've anticipated that, and it's like, yeah, like, this is normal. And it's just, I know I'm going to stand out. So then the focus is on, trying to stand out for the right reasons, not for, other reasons.
Okay. Yeah. I can't. I don't know. I feel like I have a lot to say, but this is not my space to say it. So, like, to kind of go a different direction. For those of you who don't know, I have a 3-year-old son. And so it's like, with everything that's going on right now, it's like, I look at him and I'm like, damn, in 5-6 years, y'all aren't going to see him as the little boy that I know him to be. Like, you guys are going to categorize him as a man, and he's constantly going to have to prove to different groups of people that he's not a threat. So how, as Black men, do you reiterate to people in society that you're not a threat? Like, the color of your skin, like how big you might be, like, that's not a threat to say that you're going to go do X, Y, or Z in certain scenarios.
So for me, my mindset is pretty much the first thought when they see a Black man, like, funny story, like a week ago, I was at my friend's house, and it was nighttime, I had my hoodie on, and when I walked up the stairs, this guy was walking out his apartment. He jumped when he saw me, and I was just like, I'm not going to attack you. I'm literally about to go knock on this door. But for me, it's just kind of like, the first thought is, they're always going to be scared of you. They're always going to fear you. That's the first initial thought. It's always going to be the initial thought. So to me, it's like, I got to worry about your second thought. So when you talk to me, it's like, oh, okay, you're not a bad person. You're not going to attack me. So I just learned to live with that, because we live in a world. I took a psychology class, and from the time of being young, like a little child, to older, they are taught that dark is bad, light is good. And so obviously when they see us, we're dark, so we're bad, so it's, for me, it's just affecting, like, your second thought, because it's nothing I can do to control that. So I just got to hope you have a conversation with me and not call the cops on me or whatever.
Like Cedric said, it's pretty much like, it's really not much that we could do to put out the image that we're not a threat. They're gonna automatically think that we're a threat anyway because we're Black. But what I've been doing my entire life is trying to, like, dodge the statistics. And when I say statistics, I mean, like, the typical statistics of a Black male is, like, either being in jail or dead. So that's the statistics that I've been trying to dodge my entire life. And so I've been trying to do that by just, doing my niche. My niche is, which is school, like being in school and educating myself, because that's the real threat. Getting an education and having an education as a Black man is a real threat to society. So that's what I've been trying to do, and just been trying to just dodge that statistic and, like, beat the odds that's been oppressed against us. So yeah, that's pretty much all I do. And like Cedric said, it's pretty much, we're always going to be perceived as a threat. So all you can do is just like present yourself as someone. Just be somebody. Because even if you have some type of notoriety about yourself, even once you just say, for example, if you're, like, in the military, just say if you're a top major in the military or something, once you take that uniform off, you're still a Black man at the end of the day. And so you always will be a threat, no matter how high your rank is, no matter how much notoriety you have in society, you're still going to be a threat, even as a Black man.
Oh, sorry, for somebody else go, like what he said too. So, like, a lot of times people talk to me, they think like, oh, where do you play sports at? Because obviously I'm tall and, like, okay, they're like, oh, you play football or something like that? I was like, no, I'm in pharmacy school. They be like, oh, okay, so it's stereotype, like, either you dumb or you dumb and you play sports. So that's pretty much what I learned for the past couple of years.
If anybody else doesn't have anything to go off of that, we don't want to take up too much more of your time today. So we just kind of want to end it on, if you had to say one thing to just like society at large about, you know, like how people are having like these tough conversations and they're trying to like bridge the gap and take all these necessary steps that should have been taken a long time ago to have some type of like racial reconciliation, what can our counterparts do to, I don't know, help me out, Bree. How can they make you be more seen, more heard, and not make it be such a fight or a struggle every time that you need to say something about something that needs to be addressed?
Yeah, that's good. Like, kind of like, how can they kind of level the playing field for you?
I think the biggest thing is some level of empathy and show some understanding. I think it can be hard for people to listen and have these kinds of conversations because it makes people uncomfortable to talk about, and they don't want to talk about it. And I think it makes white people kind of feel guilty that this has been ignored for a while. And it's just, I think, I'm not sure how else to phrase this, but it's like, you're going to have to get past that guilt in some way. Like, we're going to have to work past that. And one thing that really frustrates me is when people are quick to point to other issues that, you know, related or unrelated, or for, you know, like, well, what about black on black crime? And it's like, that's not really the point here. And there's a whole bunch of other things we can get into about like why, you know, that's not what we're talking about right now. So it's just like, I don't know, like, I think you have to have some sort of empathy to be able to, like, because they can't put themselves in our shoes, but it's like, I need you to try for a minute and just listen and try and be understanding and think, if you were in a situation like this, as we are explaining to you, as grave or desperate as it is, how would you react? And don't criticize how we react. Cause you don't you don't understand. So it's going to have to start there. And again, it's hard because it makes people uncomfortable for different reasons, but we're going to have to get past that in order to get through this.
Yeah, I would say just having a level of humility. So when people tell you like their stories or things that's happened to them, don't be so fast to kind of be prideful and think you know what's going on in everyone's world, because everyone's different. Everyone has different tolerances and sensitivities to different things. So just being humble and kind of like being a student and just learning from the other person, I would say. So just humility.
Be eager to listen than to speak. For example, like, just say, for example, if someone steals something, you may automatically just judge that person for stealing, but you don't know the reason why they stole. They may be going through something at home where they're not having any type of financial support to support their family or something. So that may be the reason they stole. Or, for example, a homeless person, for example, that person may not be homeless by choice. That person's house or their home may have caught on fire or something like that. So I would just say be eager to listen and understand before you speak and judge others.
For me, yeah, I know the understanding. I feel like there's a whole lot of understanding going on right now, but I feel like that needs to actually acknowledge the problem. And I seen a photo, acknowledge and put action behind it. I seen a photo this week. I think it was like Congress or something like that. They had on the African stuff and they took a knee and Congress, and I'm like, they're cool and everything, you know, like I'm glad y'all seeing the problem, y'all emphasizing with us and everything, but we need y'all to put some action behind it. So like for me, understanding ain't enough for me because you can understand all you want, but that don't mean you're gonna do anything about it. So acknowledge it and actually put some action behind it.
We hope you enjoyed the discussion and the insight given was valuable to your learning, understanding, and own personal perspective.
So our video just barely scratched the surface, but before you can understand the 400-year maximum of racial injustice, you have to understand the bare minimum.
Please share this video with your friends, family, coworkers, anybody that you think that it could be useful to. If you have any suggestions on topics that we can do throughout the series, please let us know. We thank you for sticking with us and watching. Please stay safe, stay blessed, and we will see you all soon.
Thank you.